They thought it was just a crumpled old map, hidden in the attic of a house no one had lived in for decades. No names, no roads, just hand-drawn markings, each one shaped like a small cross. At first, they assumed it was a cemetery map, until they realized none of the graves existed. No tombstones, no burial records, no signs of anyone ever being laid to rest. But then people started disappearing, and each time someone vanished, a new cross appeared on the map. The last one, it had today's date. And it was marked just a few feet from their own front door. It started on a rainy afternoon, the kind that makes old houses groan and creak like they're trying to speak. Liam hadn't planned to find anything strange that day. He was just helping his uncle clear out the attic of a house that had been in their family for generations. Dust covered everything, broken furniture, water-damaged books, a few trunks filled with forgotten things. Then he found it, folded neatly inside a leather-bound Bible with no name on it, was the map. It was drawn by hand, no labels, no compass, no color, just black ink on yellowed paper, a crooked tree, a shallow river, and several small X's marked in a looping pattern. At first, Liam thought it was just an old treasure map, or maybe someone's idea of a joke. But one detail stopped him cold. In the corner of the map, scribbled in shaky handwriting, were the words, "They are not buried yet." Liam brought the map downstairs and showed it to his uncle, but his uncle's face went pale. Because he recognized the first location. It was just outside town, in the woods behind an abandoned church. And years ago, a man had gone missing there. No body was ever found. That's when they both started to wonder, was this really a map of something? Or a map for something? At first glance, the map looked like a child had drawn it. Wobbly lines for rivers, trees that looked more like scribbles, and those strange little X's, scattered, but not random. But when Liam spread the map out fully on the kitchen table, he noticed something. The locations lined up too perfectly with real places in town. Old landmarks, forgotten trails, a collapsed barn. Each X was placed just far enough off the beaten path to stay hidden, just far enough that no one would stumble across them by accident. There were no names, but there were dates, faint, written next to each X, and that's what hit him like a punch to the chest. One of the dates was exactly 10 years ago, and that's when Sarah Donnelly vanished, a girl from the next town over. They said she ran away, but everyone knew she was the quiet kind. Never caused trouble. Never came back. Another date matched the night a local fisherman disappeared out on the lake. People said he got drunk, fell overboard. No one ever found the body, but his boat was discovered, drifting near one of the X's on the map. And then Liam noticed something else. One of the X's was marked with today's date. He checked it 3 times. Same spot, same symbol, same date. And it wasn't across town. It was in the woods behind his house. The realization crawled up his spine like ice water. This wasn't a map of where people were buried. It was a map of where people were going to die. And now, he was holding it in his hands. Liam didn't sleep that night. He kept the map folded on his nightstand, but it may as well have been burning a hole through the wall. He couldn't shake the feeling that something about it was watching him. Not in the literal sense, but as if, somehow, this thing didn't just show where things happened. It knew who was next. By morning, he made up his mind. He had to find out if this map was just a weird old coincidence, or something worse. The first thing he did was take a picture of it and run a reverse image search online. Nothing. No historical records, no archives. It didn't match any cartography records, battle maps, or folklore he could find. Then he brought it to the town library. The librarian, a woman in her 70s, took one look at it and went silent. Her eyes locked on a small, barely visible set of initials scribbled in the bottom right corner. R.W., she whispered. That's Reverend Whitmore. Liam blinked. Who? He was the town's pastor 100 years ago, she said. But people say he lost his mind, started ranting about unholy ground, said the town was built over something that shouldn't be disturbed, then he disappeared. Just like that, the story took a turn. Liam asked for town records, old land surveys, newspaper clippings, anything that might explain what the map was showing. What he found was worse than he imagined. The exact spots marked on the map aligned with a long-forgotten series of disappearances dating back to the 1800s. People vanishing with no trace. In every case, the search ended when it reached one of those spots. No blood, no footprints, just silence. As Liam looked closer, another detail made his stomach drop. The X's weren't just locations, they were in order, chronological, like a timeline, as if someone or something had been keeping track all along. And the last one, the one with today's date, wasn't fading like the others. It was darker, sharper, almost freshly drawn. And that's when Liam noticed something that hadn't been there before. A new X, appearing right as he looked at the map. And it was even closer than the one behind his house. This wasn't just a historical relic. The map was still updating itself. Someone else had just been marked. Liam didn't know what scared him more, that the map had predicted deaths from 100 years ago, or that it wasn't done yet. He tried to tell himself it was just old paper and ink, that maybe someone was playing an elaborate prank, but deep down, something didn't sit right. So he did something he never thought he'd do. He went to the first X, the one marked with Sarah Donnelly's date. It was about a mile outside of town, off a back road no one used anymore. Overgrown, quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of place where your footsteps feel louder than they should, and the air seems heavier. He reached the spot. No grave, no marker, just a patch of bare, uneven earth under a rotting tree. But something felt wrong. The ground had a strange shape to it, like it had once been disturbed, and then flattened again. No shovel marks. Just a long, subtle indentation, like the weight of something buried had never quite settled. He knelt down and brushed his fingers across the dirt. It was soft, like it had been dug recently, and then he noticed a piece of fabric poking through the soil. Just a corner, faded pink, with a tiny white flower printed on it. He froze. His stomach flipped, because Sarah Donnelly's family always said she was last seen wearing a pink jacket. He didn't dig further. He couldn't. He turned and left, fast, but it didn't stop there. Each place on the map told the same silent story. A disturbance in the ground, sometimes just inches deep, sometimes deeper. Always unmarked, always eerily quiet. And worse, animals refused to go near them. At one site, Liam brought his dog along. The dog whimpered before they even got close, then tugged violently on the leash and refused to move forward. Just stood there, tail down, staring into the trees like it saw something no one else could. Even birds avoided the area. It was as if nature itself knew something was buried, something that shouldn't be disturbed. And then the dreams started. Liam began waking up in the middle of the night, sweating, heart racing, with flashes in his head. Flashes of the map, of dirt being shoveled, of voices whispering names he didn't recognize. In one dream, he saw himself standing at a grave that hadn't been marked yet. But in his hand, he was holding a pen, the same kind of pen that had drawn the map. He woke up gasping, because deep down, he started to feel it. The map wasn't just keeping track of death, it was choosing. And maybe, just maybe, it was waiting for him to make the next mark. Liam knew he couldn't make sense of the map on his own. History wasn't his thing. But stories? Old stories have a way of remembering the things history wants to forget. So he started asking around, quietly, carefully. He didn't show the map to just anyone, only the old-timers, the ones who'd been in the town long enough to remember how it used to be and what people stopped talking about a long time ago. He met one man, Earl, in his 80s, who stared at the map for a long time without saying a word. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "My daddy used to say, 'Don't go where the ground forgets.'" Liam asked what that meant. Earl leaned in close and said, "Some places, they don't stay buried. The earth remembers." The old man told him about something called the Watcher's Path, a legend passed down from before the town was even founded. It was said that long before settlers arrived, the land was feared by native tribes, not because of any battle or plague, but because the ground itself was cursed. Things buried there didn't stay dead. Sometimes they didn't even stay buried. Another woman, Agnes, the church's oldest member, recognized the initials RW in the map's corner and told Liam something terrifying. Reverend Whitmore wasn't just the town's preacher. He was its record keeper. He kept track of deaths, but not the kind you bury in cemeteries. The kind the town didn't want to admit ever happened. Mysterious disappearances, people who went mad, even a few cases where graves had been dug, but never filled. Whitmore wrote them all down. Some believe the Reverend became obsessed with patterns, trying to connect dots between these vanishing acts, claiming there was a rhythm, a sequence, a design. He believed the land itself was marking people. Liam asked what happened to him. Agnes paused, then said flatly, "He vanished, just like the rest, and the last thing he wrote was a map." And then came the worst story of all. In 1923, a boy named Henry Caldwell disappeared from his home. Only his shoes were found, neatly placed near the riverbank. The town searched for weeks. But according to a hidden church document, one of Reverend Whitmore's last journal entries mentioned seeing a shadowy figure in the woods the night Henry vanished. A figure standing over an open grave before it even existed. The town called it a myth, but the X on Liam's map matched the location exactly. The stories weren't just legends anymore. They were warnings, whispers from the past that everyone had ignored. Until the map came back. And Liam couldn't shake the feeling that these stories weren't about the people who were already gone. They were about the ones who were next. There was one X left. The newest one. The darkest one. Marked with today's date. And it wasn't in the woods, or by a river. It was right in the center of town. More specifically, just behind the abandoned Mayfair house, a decaying mansion no one had lived in for over 60 years. That's where Liam knew he had to go. He waited until nightfall. Part of him hoped the map was lying, that it was all coincidence, twisted imagination. But deep down, he already knew. This was the final grave. He took a flashlight, the map, and nothing else. The Mayfair house stood crooked against the sky like a dying monument. Windows shattered, porch sagging, vines choking the brick. The backyard was worse. The ground was dry, cracked, and dead silent. Even the insects stayed away. And there, right where the X should be, was a dip in the earth, a shallow pit. Not quite a grave, not yet. But beside it was a shovel. Liam froze. No footsteps, no recent signs of anyone digging. Just the shovel, like it had been waiting. He approached slowly, each step crunching in the dry weeds beneath him. And then he saw it. A name. Faintly etched into the wooden handle of the shovel was his own name. Not painted, not carved, burned in. Liam's blood turned to ice. Was this supposed to be his grave? He stepped back. And then the ground gave out, only for a second, just an inch beneath him, but enough to reveal something under the soil. He knelt and scraped at the dirt with trembling hands. And there it was, a coffin lid, rotten, aged, and cracked from time, but real. He opened it slowly, heart pounding. Inside was a mirror, a full-length mirror, bolted to the bottom, and written across it in black ash, "The earth remembers. The map only shows. The choice is always yours." Liam stared down at his own reflection. It wasn't a grave. It was a warning, a test, a final decision, written long before he ever touched the map. And in that moment, it hit him. The map didn't predict death. It invited it. Each X wasn't just a record. It was a temptation. And everyone who had followed the map had finished it. Because they chose to. Liam dropped the shovel. He didn't want to finish the map. And as he walked away, the wind shifted. And somewhere behind him, the lid of the grave closed itself. Liam thought it was over. He left the Mayfair house behind, left the grave untouched, left the map folded, hidden in a locked drawer at home. Days passed. The air felt lighter. The nightmares stopped. Maybe, just maybe, he had broken the cycle. But then, he got a letter. No return address, no stamp, just a plain envelope slipped through his door. Inside was another map, but this one was different. It was newer, clean, printed in fresh ink. It didn't just show his town anymore. It showed other towns, dozens of them, hundreds, each one dotted with little red X's. But the scariest part? One X was marked in real time. It blinked on the page, not metaphorically, literally blinking like it was alive. And it wasn't on his town anymore. It was 2 states away. Liam zoomed in on the location, a small town called Halbrook. Never heard of it. But curiosity got the best of him. He searched Halbrook News, and there it was. Break-in. Local teen found dead behind elementary school. Authorities unsure of cause. The X matched the spot exactly. Liam's hands trembled. He looked back at the map. The blinking dot had moved again. Now it hovered over another town, another location, another person. He realized something horrifying. This map wasn't made by one person. It wasn't tied to just his town. It was bigger, older, smarter. And now, it had chosen him as the next cartographer, not a victim, but a watcher. The final twist? The original map, the one he found in the attic, was never meant to predict his death. It was meant to find someone to carry on the work. And Liam? He had passed the test. Because he didn't die. He understood. And now, he had a pen. Liam stopped answering calls. No social media activity, no texts, not even receipts. For someone so consumed by the map, his sudden silence was unnatural. His close friend Ava was the first to notice. They used to talk every day, but now her messages just stayed on delivered. No replies, no read receipts, nothing. So she drove to his house. It was exactly how he left it. The front door locked, windows closed, curtains drawn. His car still in the driveway collecting dust, like he had just stepped out for a walk and never came back. She called the police. They searched the house. Nothing was stolen, nothing broken, no signs of forced entry. But his phone was still on the nightstand, wallet on the dresser, shoes by the door, and the attic, wide open. They found the desk where he had studied the map, and on it was a new map, blank, no marks, except for one single line. In handwriting no one could confirm, not even his family. The map continues, one hand draws, one disappears. It didn't make sense. There was no evidence of foul play, no suicide note, no sign of him packing a bag, just gone, like he vanished into the paper itself. But here's the part that really chilled Ava to her bones. On his desk, beneath the map, was a single envelope addressed to her. Inside, no letter, no explanation, just a small, red marker. Still uncapped, still fresh. That night, she started dreaming about woods, about digging, about a name she didn't recognize, being whispered over and over again. And in the morning, there was a folded paper under her pillow. It was a map. And this time, her name was at the bottom. Sometimes horror doesn't come from monsters or murderers. It comes from quiet things, forgotten things, things buried beneath our feet that were never supposed to be found, but were waiting to be. Liam didn't find the map by chance. He was meant to. And maybe that's the scariest part. The idea that some stories choose their storyteller. It makes you wonder, how many maps are out there right now, folded inside old drawers, tucked between dusty books, scribbled in the margins of forgotten journals, and how many people are holding them? Without even knowing what they really are? This wasn't just a ghost story. It was a chain reaction. Every person who vanishes leaves a space, and every space gets filled by someone new, someone curious, someone just like Liam, or someone like you. So before you laugh off a creepy attic or ignore the strange markings in an old diary, ask yourself, are you the last name on the page, or are you about to become the next one drawn? Either way, the map remembers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.